Story time about how my entire family found out I had an OnlyFans. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. My family is super strict on me. My dad was so strict. I couldn't even have girlfriends growing up. Like, I couldn't have kids over. I couldn't go to anyone's house. It was the worst. Daddy dearest would even check my emails and my cell phone every single day. So when I turned 18, I moved the heck out of that house. So of course I needed to earn money, and I found out that one of my friends had an OnlyFans and she was trying to convince me to use it so that I could sign up with her link. Part of me just wanted to really piss off my dad, so I signed up. And guess what? Within a week, I had about 60 followers charging $9 a month. You do the math. See, my dad was paying for my phone bill and everything at the time, so I wanted to become financially independent, and I was able to do it. So I tell my dad I don't need his financial help anymore, and he starts asking questions, but I wasn't giving him any information. Later on that night, my phone starts acting weird. Go to part 2. That's when I realized that my phone had been hacked. Guess what? It was Daddy Dearest. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Before I realized my dad had hacked my phone, he called me and asked me to come over. But he had a really bad attitude, so I was like, what the heck is going on? When I get to my parents' house, both my parents are sitting on the couch waiting for me. And that's when my dad tells me that he knows that I'm on OnlyFans. He tells me I'm a whore and that I'm a slut, and that I've disgraced the entire family. My mom just stayed quiet the entire time, but I definitely kept my cool. Once my dad was finished insulting me, I calmly told him that I was an adult and that he had no right to intervene into my life. I asked him how he found out, and then he showed me his cell phone. He somehow had access to everything in my phone. I was so disgusted. That's when my mom gets up from the couch, gives me a hug, and tells me that she's proud of me. She said she didn't agree with me having OnlyFans, but that she was happy I was turning into an adult. Then the craziest thing happens. The doorbell rings, and guess who it is? Part 3 is up. When I open the door, it's my aunt, my uncle, and my cousins. My father literally called the entire family because I had an OnlyFans. As soon as my aunt sees me, she bursts into tears. I ran away from my parents' house and went straight to my apartment. Then my cousin told me they were planning on having an intervention. Now I'm making $5,000 on OnlyFans. XOXO, OnlyFans. Story time about how I got arrested for stalking my celebrity crush. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. When I was 15, I saw my celebrity crush for the first time in a movie. After that, I pretty much went to all of his movie premieres and events. I was able to take a picture with him and even got his signature. To say that I was obsessed was an understatement. Now, here's where the problem began. He started dating this woman, aka another celebrity, and I pretty much lost it after that. At the time, I was living with my mother and she couldn't help but notice the change in me. I started staying out pretty late, mostly because I was out in the city looking for him. I knew all of his hangout spots because the paparazzi always caught him there. So I basically would hang out everywhere he would. I followed him to his house, I followed him to the gym, and I followed him to the grocery store, pretty much everywhere. I decided to sign up to his gym, and I started talking to him, and he started talking to me, and he asked me out on a date. Part 2 is up. After stalking him for a while, my celebrity crush asked me out on a date. But he didn't know I was stalking him, of course. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. On the date, he pretty much only talked about himself. He told me he had just broken up with his ex, which I knew that. And I basically pretended not to know anything about him. There was lots of awkward silence and I just couldn't help but stare at him the whole time. That's when he asked for the check and paid for dinner. I was totally expecting him to ask me to go back to his place. Well, when he didn't, I was really disappointed. So I did the logical thing. I invited myself over. That's when he told me that he couldn't because he had to get up early. After that, I didn't hear back from him at all. So I decided to go to the gym where I knew he was going to be. But when I tried to say hello to him, he told me to stay away. Then he asked one of the gym employees to escort me out. And when I got home, the cops were waiting for me to arrest me. They showed me pictures of me stalking my celebrity crush. Part 3 is up. As soon as I got home, the cops were there and they arrested me. And they showed me pictures of me stalking my celebrity crush. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. Since they had all this evidence and my face on the pictures, I couldn't say it wasn't me. They told me that after our date, my celebrity crush got a really bad feeling from me. So he decided to install cameras around his house and in his car. And well, that's when he caught me stalking him around his house at odd hours and following him in my car all the time. I was taken to court and told I had to go to therapy. Apparently, he felt bad for me though and didn't want to press charges. He did get a restraining order, so I definitely can't go near him. The good news is that I have another celebrity crush. Yay! Story time about how I found my boyfriend with his best friend. My boyfriend and I have been together for almost 6 years. We met in cosmetology school. We both had a love for makeup and hair. While in school, we decided to partner up and open up our own little business. I started liking him from the moment we met, but he never made a move on me. And I was not used to that. So we were friends for a few months. One night, we went out with our friends and we got a little drunk and one thing led to another and I kissed him. He kissed me back and after that, we were inseparable. We even moved in together and we talked about marriage. But ultimately, he would never propose. I always asked him when we were going to get married and he just never had an answer. His best friend, let's call him Roger. Roger was a great guy and he always hung out with us. I liked him. They would hang out all the time and I never thought anything of it because they were best friends. One day Roger made a comment about my boyfriend being really good looking. I brushed it off, but a few days later I walk into our apartment and there they are on the couch doing stuff. I literally passed out. Part 2 is up. I walk in on my boyfriend and his male best friend on the couch doing things to each other. I actually fainted as soon as I saw it. All the blood rushed to my head and I passed out. And when I came to, they're both standing over me half naked. My boyfriend picked me up from the floor and put me on the couch. And Roger went to the kitchen to get me a drink. I felt dizzy and I couldn't even speak. I blurted out, "You're gay?" Then my boyfriend started crying. He said he didn't mean to hurt me and that he never wanted to waste my time. I asked him how long he'd known that he was gay. And he said for a few years. That meant I was wasting all of my youth on him. I could have had children. I could have been married already. I was so upset. Then guess what? My boyfriend says he's gonna go stay at Roger's place so that he can give me some space. Of course, I begged him not to leave because I knew that would be the end of us. I thought we could work through this. He packed his stuff and left. Part 3 is up. My boyfriend left me for his best friend, who's a guy. A few days passed by and I was super devastated. That's when my boyfriend comes and knocks on my door. Then he gave me the worst news of all. He told me he was gonna marry his best friend, Roger. He explained to me that they had been in love for a long time, but they never told each other anything. It was only until recently that they started hooking up. Looking back, it all makes sense. He and Roger would hang out all the time and I was never invited. Roger even got my boyfriend hired as a makeup artist at his job. They were constantly together. But at the same time, I had never seen my boyfriend so happy. He said he could finally be himself. This is when I realized that it was for the best. I stopped begging him to get back with me and I started dating other people. They even invited me to their wedding, which was beautiful. Now we have dinner a few times a month and I've got a new boyfriend. Life is crazy. Story time about how I caught my husband with his mistress. My husband and I, or should I say my has-been of a husband, have been married for 9 years. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it was sent to me. My husband and I also have 2 kids. When we met, I was totally out of his league and he knew it. We met through friends and he made sure to tell all of my friends how much he wanted to be with me. At the time, I was modeling to pay my way through school, so I had no time for a boyfriend. But he got pretty insistent. We went out on a few dates and he treated me really well, better than all the guys I had met at that time. He was a gentleman, always picked up the tab and treated me with respect. So when he asked me to be his girlfriend, I said yes. 2 years later, he asked me to be his wife and I said yes. We were truly in love and best of all, we were best friends. I could talk to him about anything because he wasn't the jealous type. 4 months ago, he asked me for an open relationship. Of course, I said no, and this made him really angry. I got really suspicious and started checking his phone when he'd fall asleep. And that's when I found pictures of him with a girl at a hotel doing naughty things to each other. Part 2 is up. Once he fell asleep, I checked his phone and that's when I found pictures of him with another girl at a hotel doing naughty things to each other. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it was sent to me on Instagram. I decided not to confront him. Instead, I started gathering evidence. I started following him around everywhere after I dropped the kids off at school. Mind you, I quit my job because he wanted me to stay at home with the kids. On the first day I started following him, he went to a hotel. Since I didn't want him to see me, I stayed in my car. 40 minutes, he exits the hotel with a woman. By the way, these were not cheap hotels. A few days later, I followed him to a strip club. I checked his bank account and he had withdrawn $2,000 that same day. That's when I really got upset. A few days later, I followed him to an apartment complex. That's when I see a woman opening the door and it was the same woman from the hotel. My stomach dropped. After about a week, I mustered up the courage to go talk to her. When she opened the door, she recognized me instantly. She tried to close the door in my face, but I pushed my way in. Then the coward ran to her room and locked herself in there. Part 3. My husband's mistress runs to her room and locks the door when she sees me. What a coward. I ran right after her and I told her that I wasn't going to hurt her and that I just wanted to talk. Of course, she asked me to leave, but I told her I wasn't going to move an inch until we talked. She comes out and we proceed to talk for 3 hours. She explained to me that she's an escort and that my husband pays for her apartment. She also told me that she wasn't in love with him and that she really only needed the money. This made me very happy. She also told me that aside from paying for her apartment, he gave her an allowance of $3,000 a month. Oh yeah, and that she knew about me and the kids. That's when I lost it. I took my pepper spray out of my purse and sprayed her. Fortunately, it didn't directly hit her in the face, but it still got her. I went straight to a lawyer and presented all the evidence. When I got home, my husband asked me how I found out. I showed him all the evidence and he was stunned. He's begging me not to divorce him because he knows it's going to be really expensive. I kicked him out and he went to his mom's house. His mom was angry and she didn't let him stay there. How much should I ask for? Story time about how I caught my girlfriend cheating on me with my cousin. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Girlfriend and I have been together for 5 months and yes, we are both girls. My cousin, who is a guy, works as a club promoter. He's constantly surrounded by girls, so one night he invited me over to his club. When I got to the club that night, he introduced me to this girl. Let's call her Stacy. Stacy and I hit it off right away. She's an Instagram model and owns her own business. I was totally attracted to her right away. We talked and danced the entire night and after that we were inseparable. We did everything together and she started sleeping at my place and I would sleep at hers. And we started partying with my cousin every single weekend at the club he worked at. After a while, I told Stacy that I just didn't want to go to the club and that I wanted to stay home. But she said she was still gonna go. She started going to the club by herself, and after a few weeks, I got suspicious. She was really distant and cold. So I did the logical thing. I followed her to the club one night without her knowing. And when I got there, I found her straddling my cousin on a couch, full on making out. It gets really scary and violent from here. Part 2 is up. I see my girlfriend straddling my cousin on a couch, full on making out. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Because we were inside of a club, there were so many bottles around me. I picked up a bottle and I threw it straight at her back. She turns around and looks at me and quickly gets up. My cousin stays sitting on the couch like the douche he is, and my girlfriend comes up to me, tries to play it off, and just starts laughing. But I was furious. Then she tries to kiss me. I push her and she falls onto the couch. She quickly gets up and tries to punch me in the face. Before I knew it, her and I were just beating each other up, and 4 people were trying to separate us. My cousin elbowed some guy by mistake while he was trying to separate us, and the guy started punching on him. It was like a ball of 10 people kicking and punching each other. The DJ stopped the music and the club lights were turned on. That's when I knew I had to get out of there before the cops were called. I mean, I did start the fight after all. I saw Stacy's phone on the couch and I quickly grabbed it. Stacy grabs me by the hair again, and that's when I see the cops show up. Part 3 is up. That's when I see the cops come in and I just started running. Stacy ran right after me. People start shouting at the cops to grab us. I was taken outside and a cop put me inside his car. They did the same thing to Stacy. That's when I started crying because I was really sad at the situation because I really love Stacy. And I never expected my cousin to betray me like that. I apologized to the club manager and the cops and they let me go. When I got home, my cousin was waiting for me at my door. That's when he told me the truth. Stacy and him had been hooking up since before I met her, but she just never stopped hooking up with him. He apologized and left. A few days later, I see Stacy posting on Instagram about her new boyfriend. And it's my cousin. But don't worry, I got revenge. Stacy showed up at my apartment to apologize one night. We ended up getting entangled. Now the question is, should I tell my cousin or should I just continue to see Stacy behind his back? What do you guys think? Story time about when my best friend set me up to get sexually assaulted. Little background. I got bullied a lot in school because girls are just mean, and boys too. I also did modeling and acting, so kids were really mean about it. I didn't have any girlfriends. I mostly hung out with my twin brother and all of his friends who were super nice to me. Let's call her Anna. Anna was the mean girl. Everyone wanted to be in her good graces, so people would just do what she told them to do. She was funny and she was pretty much friends with everyone. She eventually befriended me. Things were going just great at the beginning, but then rumors started. I didn't know who started them, but I definitely didn't think it was Anna. I went over to Anna's house one night and she was really mean, and I'll do another story time about that. But a few weeks later, she invited me to a party. I show up and it was definitely not a party. It was only a few people. I knew 2 of the girls that were there, but the rest were total strangers to me. She tells all of us to go to her garage. But once we got there, she tells everyone to run out and she locks me inside the garage with this random guy that I don't know. Then he starts trying to kiss me and grab at me. Part 2 is up. He tries to kiss me and starts grabbing at me. I pushed him away, ran to the door, and started pounding on it. Well, guess what? I could hear Anna and the rest of her little friends laughing. I begged her to let me out, and she said, but he likes you. He just wants to get to know you. And then they laughed some more. And the guy told me that he liked me and that he's noticed me around school, but that he never got the chance to talk to me. That's when I tell him, but you don't know me and you're trying to kiss me. Then he said that Anna told him that I liked him. I told him I had never even seen him before. Then I started yelling really loud and pounding on the door. Anna opens the door and tells me to shut up because her mom is gonna hear. They just kept laughing. I run to the phone and tell my mom to pick me up. I did not have the courage to tell my mom. I confronted Anna and asked her why she did that. She said I was exaggerating and that they were just trying to have some fun. The following week, I'm in class and I can hear Anna telling a group of girls what had happened. And she was talking loud enough so that I could hear it. Told them that she planned the whole thing and that I fell for it. And worst of all, she started telling everyone that I lost my V card. Part 3 is up. She told everyone in school that I lost my V card all thanks to her. I also overheard her saying that I was so stupid for having fallen for a little plan. Then a girl from my class comes up to me and starts telling me that Anna was talking to some boys, asking them to make anonymous phone calls to my house. When I got home that day, I got a bunch of phone calls. I answered the phone and a boy on the other end said that he was going to do terrible things to me and that he knew where I lived. I started getting weird notes in my locker. Anna would start talking bad about me right in front of me, loud enough so that I could hear, and other people in class would laugh. That's when I decided that I needed to call her mom and tell her everything. I started by talking to Anna's sister. I told her everything and she told me she wasn't surprised. Later that day, I called her house and her sister made sure to answer the phone. I told Anna's mom everything. She made Anna call me to apologize, and I could just hear it in her voice how much she hated it. I asked her why she didn't like me and she really didn't have an answer. Anna actually started following me on Instagram and sent me a DM back in 2018. I didn't answer. I think she's working at a call center now or something like that.